All right, we're back talking horse racing, Horsepower PSN. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and joining me once again this week, fresh off a double winning exacta bonanza last week over at Churchill Downs, is the one and only John Hardoon from the Riders and Sheets. How's it going, John?
Good, Greg. How are you?
Good. So that went well last week.
Yeah, it's nice when you like a $30 horse and they actually win.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you got the exacta and everything else with it. So no complaints. Hopefully the listeners made some money.
Yeah, and by the way, that 14-1 shot we gave was on Patreon. So hopefully, well, we know the Patreon members were able to take advantage of it, and it was also nice because it was a nice little come from behind win. That was Happy is a Choice, and he's a closer, so that was expected. But it was really nice to see him kind of come from behind him because the favorite, who was it? The Skelly. It looked like, you kind of figured Skelly was out front. All right, it's over. But you could just tell, and of course the announcer was saying it, he was fading fast.
He just doesn't finish races like he used to. I don't know if he's waiting on horses or maybe, he's lost a step, but he's certainly not the same horse. He had no excuse really to get beat, to be honest with you. But the horse we liked actually won, and that was a good thing.
Yeah, that's, what is that now, 3 straight for Skelly being first down the stretch and finishing second. So, Not good for Skelly, but hey, like you said, it's good for us, including the exacta. And then in the 10th race, the Grade 3 race, that was the race, as you mentioned, was the early Derby Points race. And that was another winner, dominating win, actually.
Yeah, Jonathan's away. We saw the race in Saratoga. He was great that day. And last week, second start, he actually got out of the gate, never in doubt. They bet the heck out of him. He was 9-2 morning line. I think he paid 4 and change. So maybe they took all their money from the race before and sent it in on the next race.
So what did you happen to know what his number was? Because he was a 12, which was pretty impressive for a first go around. And I got to imagine it was better than that.
I think he ran a 9.
Okay.
Usually they put the numbers up Thursday afternoon, but now we're taping early, so
yeah. Okay.
Maybe you'll post it up on the board later or something.
So there you go. Jonathan's Way, maybe a very early Derby contender. Long way to go, though. So
yeah, only 9 months away. It's silly to be running races for points at this point because I could guarantee you, if any of the horses in that race, maybe 2 or 3 of them will be around by Derby time. Who knows? This game, you need a lot of luck and a lot of patience.
All right, we want to remind everybody to subscribe to the channel because this is the way that you're going to make sure that all of the races are available on YouTube. We got to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. Look, there might be some other changes. We haven't really had time. The reason is, as you can see, Chad is not here, and that is because, as we said last week, Chad was busy on a trip, and Chad's just very busy. And as you can tell, we've had a very difficult time. Well, maybe you can or can't tell, but trying to schedule things. So Chad felt it was the time to kind of just step away. And hopefully we'll have Chad back again if he kind of rejuice himself. I know he'll miss it because we all had a good time with him. He was great as a handicapper. It was awesome to have his expertise, of course, as a trainer on the being able to let us know what's going on the track before races and warm-ups, things of that nature. But yeah, it was great having him on, and I'm sure we'll have him on again at some point. It was. I just was very happy that we were able to take advantage of the opportunity we had with him.
Yeah, he brought plenty of good stuff to the show. He gave us a view from the backside, so people like that. We'll miss him, but that's the way it goes.
Yep. So we'll let you know about any potential programming changes along the way. Again, this just came about the last 24 hours, so we will let you know. But everything is still the same. So please subscribe. All that's important. And if you want, again, it's just $5 a month. You click the Patreon link. You sign up. If you're unhappy for whatever reason, you can just stop your subscription at Patreon for $5 for the month, and that's it. No strings attached, and there's no strings attached as well with subscribing. Okay, So let's go ahead and let everybody know what we're doing today. And that's going to be talking about Parx Racing. And we have the Pennsylvania Derby on Saturday. So that's actually going to be race 13. Race 14 is going to be the bonus race. And that's the one that's going to be available on Patreon. So we're actually going to start with our YouTube audience with the Pennsylvania Derby. And this is going to go off a little after 6:10 on Saturday. The weather looks fine. Mile and an eighth. And again, $1 million race for 3-year-olds. So the morning line favorite, John, is Stronghold. So he's on the outside at 11.
No. The morning line favorite is the 7, Dragoon Guard, the Brad Cox horse.
Oh, okay. So the 7 is okay. So Dragoon Guard is at 9-5. Stronghold's at 5-2. And yeah, and it was interesting because even though Stronghold is a slight second choice, he doesn't have any single digits on the sheet numbers. So, are you surprised that he was the second choice?
That he's a second choice, no, because he ran second in the Indiana Derby. He's been running in big stake races. He won the Santa Anita Derby. He's a good horse in California. The question is he going to be a good horse here against these horses? At 5-2, there's really no big deal about Stronghold. I think Dragoon Guard is a much better horse, personally. He's got 5 starts, 4 wins. But for the radio, we're going to find another horse, and we're going to find a price play again in here. I think it's not as easy as Dragoon Guard and Stronghold. I think there are other horses that have legitimate chances.
I agree with that. So let's go ahead and get started. The first 3 horses, it looks like...
by the way, just one thing before we start. This is an interesting race because you usually get horses that ran in the Derby and ran well in the Derby show up at this race. It's horses that didn't quite make it back in time for the Travers and the Haskell. They'll show up here. And some horses that have even run in the Travers and Haskell in the past have come back and run here. That's not the case this year. So for that reason, I think you don't have the Sierra Leones. You don't have the fiercenesses in here. So this opens the race up and makes it a better betting race, I think, for the public.
And we start, actually, if you take a look at, the one, first of all, it's a 12-1 shot. It ran a 9 in April. Other than that, it's coming in with 3 straight 11s, even though he's finished first or second in his last 9 races?
Yeah, well...
He's only ran 9 races.
Exactly. So he's never been off the board. Mike Maselli's the trainer. He's getting Jose Ortiz today. I guess Javier Castellano is still out with some sort of injury. The horse is okay, but I think you have better options.
And the 2, so this is one of those horses that you were talking about in a way, because the Seize the Gray horse is a Preakness winner. Who ran, of course, in the Belmont and a bunch of other big Kentucky Derby prep and overall Kentucky Derby races. So 5-1, ran a 9 in the Preakness win, but then after that came back to his normal numbers, 14 and then 11.
Yeah, the thing about this horse is he got very lucky on Preakness Day at Pimlico. The track came up sloppy, and he got to walk on the lead that day, and that's not going to be the situation. The weather's supposed to be beautiful on Saturday. He moves up on a wet track if it happens to rain, but I don't want any part of this horse at 5-1.
Yeah, and the 3 is just too slow. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. The 4. Now the 4 is an interesting horse here. I definitely want to put this horse in the exactas timeout at 10-1 with Rosario on board. He's been on board the last 2, which have both been in the money, and also been at this distance, which is nice. He also has 2 9s in his last 3 races. So considering the 9s, the 10-1 in the money, it seems like a really good play to try to see if we can make some money with this horse.
Yeah, this is going to be my top selection. He's lightly raced, only 5 career starts, but he's really getting better. I like the fact that he came right back to that 9 last time out. 3 races back, he ran the 9 at Aqua, going long. 2 starts back, I guess he bounced off of the 9, but the fact that he came back last time to that 9 at Saratoga, the only question I have is that the only bad race in the last 3 races was 2 starts back without Lasix. He's not going to get to run on Lasix Saturday. But the fact that he's 10-1 or anywhere near that price, this is the right horse to be king in here.
All right. Next up is the 5 Protective, and Protective ran a 9 2 starts back, 15 last time out, and that's when he broke his maiden. So you do get a Red Ortiz Jr. on board, Todd Pletcher training, but they paid a decent amount of money for the horse. He only has 1 win out of 7, hasn't won at this distance. I don't know. I mean, the only good thing in my mind is that he's 8-1.
Yeah, the funny thing about this horse is 2 races back at 9, 3 races back at 11, 4 races back at 10. He didn't win with any of those races.
Yeah.
He ran the 15 and he won.
Yeah.
As a general rule, I don't like playing horses that won their last race with bad numbers because you lose all value, But that being said, I don't really like him here.
Yeah, and he was a heavy favorite. So does that mean that was a pretty bad field?
Yeah, well, it was a maiden field, and listen, he ran in the Belmont, he ran in the Peter Pan, he ran in the Wood Memorial. You don't see maidens running those races. That's why he was 1-5 or 1-9 last time out.
Any chance that was a reaction to the 9, and that you can say, well, maybe he'll revert back to the fact that he was headed in the right direction before that?
You absolutely can. Listen, it was a paceless race last time out. It was a race, by the way, that was scheduled for the turf, and it came off the turf. He may have been entered for main track only. I'm not sure. But in any case, listen, he figures to make a forward move off the 15. The problem is I don't think he's going to be long enough. He never goes off a big price.
Yeah.
I know he's listed at 8-1. I guess he's on the bubble. I mean, he's like a lot of other horses in the race. He's kind of like the one, and he's going to be like other horses that we get to as we go on.
Okay. Now we've got a 15-1 shot that appears a little slow. He has run a 12 and a 13 his last 2, but that's just too slow at this point.
Doesn't belong here. The only thing he has going for him is this is his home track. He trains here, he races here, so sometimes the hometown horses move up, but I don't like this horse.
Okay, now here's Dragoon Guard, the 9-5 morning line favorite. Cox, Giroux, this year 10, 9, 9, 11, all wins. This is a horse that wants to start and win the race from coast to coast. And the last 2 races were grade 3 wins. So Dragoon Guard, again, a good horse, but I mean, it's not like the sheet numbers are that much better than some of the other horses that we've already talked about with better odds.
No, he's got the same 9s that the 4 timeout has. Listen, he's never really done anything wrong. He has 5 starts and he's won 4 races. Take nothing away from him. Who knows how good he really is? When you keep winning, you probably run whatever you have to run to win. So, maybe there's a lot more in the tank. But at 9-5, I just think he's a play. I'm going to use him, obviously, in exactas, but I wouldn't key a horse like this. Can he win? Of course he can win. But the name of the game is value, and there's no real value in playing this horse at 6-5.
Yeah, just taking a look. How about the fact that he wants that lead, and taking a look at the rest of the field just briefly, is that something that will work in his favor with this group? Can it possibly work against him at all?
Well, you got 11 horses in the race. I'm sure other horses are going to go. They're not just going to give him an easy lead and say, have a nice day. I think there are going to be other horses. Sees the Gray likes the lead. He likes to show speed.
Yeah.
He's breaking inside of him. You got to hope, obviously, other horses go with him. But again, there's just no value playing this horse at a short price.
And one of those horses, by the way, that might battle him right off the gate is the 8. And that is Unmatched Wisdom. So you got Chad Brown. And here's the interesting thing, that Pratt was on board the first 3 races, all wins, ran an 8, 8, and 11, which is very good for your first 3 races of your career. Then in the Travers, I'm sure there was a reason that Ortiz jumped on board over Pratt. Not sure what it was. But
there was a good reason. Pratt went to Sierra Leone.
There you go.
That's the reason.
Not that worked out.
No, but this horse actually just never showed up. He got beat 18 lengths that day. Fierceness was great. He put 3s together. We know that. He just ran horrible last time out. Obviously, he could rebound today. I would use him underneath. The last race was also 1.25 miles. Maybe he didn't want to go that far. This is only 1.125 miles. And reunited with Pratt, and it's Chad Brown, so always dangerous. I don't think you want to eliminate them so fast.
The 9 is too slow, correct?
Yes.
All right, the 10 is Uncle Heavy. Boy, we've talked a lot about Uncle Heavy on this show.
We tried to catch him a few times, but all he has is that one. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong horse. Oh no, he's just slow. I mean, he's never run better than the 13. You know, he never made that step forward,
No.
and he should have by now. And the fact that he didn't, to me, is a negative sign.
Yeah, and then we thought too that after he ran that 12 at the Withers, which was a high for him, that was the first step that he was gonna, and then it went backwards. So
Exactly.
And to not win in his last race at short price in a field like that, that was, especially at this track, that was probably the last nail. Okay.
Well, that was a Smarty Jones. He needs probably time off. They need to regroup and decide what they're doing. This is another horse that this trainer does a terrific job. He's been a leading trainer, or a top trainer, certainly at Parks for many years. He's well respected, but this horse just doesn't have it.
And Michael Sanchez is he's got to be one of the leading riders at
He's
this
the leading
track.
rider at Parks. Him and I guess Paco Lopez. He's hitting at about 25%, which is pretty good.
Keep in mind that 12 he ran at the Withers is still his best sheet number. All right, and then the last one is Stronghold, the 5-2 shot. His best runs this year in his career are 3 10s. One of those 10s, as you mentioned, John, was in the Santa Anita Derby win in April, but he's never run a single-digit sheet number yet. Still, he's 7 for 8, either first or second. First trip to Parks.
Yeah, but it's he's breaking from the outside. He's 5-2. He's breaking from the 11 post, so that has to be a disadvantage, especially at 2 turns at Parks. You have a little bit of a run into that first turn, but you don't want to break from the 11 post. And at 5-2, he's going to have to beat me. I'm not playing him.
All righty. So, you want to take this first or me? We'll switch it for 2 races. Which one do you want first?
I like the 4 timeout. I'm playing exact is with the 7 and 8. 4 over 7, 8. You can reverse them obviously as well.
And
timeout with Dragoon Guard and Unmatched Wisdom.
There you go. Timeout at a 10-1 shot. We'll keep our fingers crossed. I think those odds should stay pretty close to that. And with the 7 and the 8. I'm going to go, I'm going to take a chance with the 5 Protective. Hope that those odds don't drop too much. Over the 4, 7, 8. So, of course, we're right there with the 7 and the 8 and the 4. I'm just going to go ahead and throw in the 5 as well as the winner of the race and hope I get 8-1.
You'll get 8-1.
All right. Now, let's talk about the race 14. Before we do that, we're going to say goodbye to our YouTube viewers. So, again, check the link in the description. If you can't find it, just hit that little more link. You see where it says more. Basically, you click that and you see a whole big section that pops up. That's where one of the links will be. And I'll try to put a link, of course, in the comment section as well, pinned at the top, to make it easy for you to just click and then check out our Patreon page. And you'll be able to find out what we're going to say about this race and also the next 3 weeks, because you get a whole month's worth of races here on Patreon or over there on Patreon. So for YouTube viewers, again, appreciate it. Don't forget, once again, to
hit subscribe.
And we'll see you again next week. I'm not sure. There's a big card next week, isn't there? I was looking ahead. I think there is a big card next week somewhere.
Is there? I'm sure they're sending. There are races.
Yeah, so there's some really good races next week. So we'll be back for you YouTubers next week. Okay, let's talk about race number 14 here on Patreon. And that is the Parks Sprint Stakes race. It's a $100,000 race for 4-year-olds. And let's go through this, John. You got the morning line favorite. It appears to be the 6, Super Chow, a 7-2 shot, followed by the 11, Top Gunner, a 4-1 shot. Even though Top Gunner looks like he's seen better days, he's a 7-year-old who ran some 7s and a 6 in early 2022, but hasn't run like that since, and he's got the outside post. The 6, meanwhile, Super Chow, gets an upgrade with our Red Ortiz Jr. on board. Looks like he's on board for the first time. This horse does have 2 Grade 3 wins, ran a 7 in May.
Yeah, but who do you want to... Let's talk about Super Chow first, okay. I guess. Super Chow, first of all, the problem with this horse is that it's not a problem, but obviously they give him time between races. If you look this year, the 7-2 starts back was running the slop, which was a top. Before that, earlier this year, the 9 was running the slop, which was a top before the 7. I don't know. I don't think he's running a 7. I don't think he's running a 9. I think he's more likely to run, maybe a 10 or an 11 at best. And I think at 7-2, I don't want any part of this horse. Can he win? Of course he could win, but no edge in playing this horse at a short price.
Yeah, and Top Gunner gets the outside post. Of course, you do have Brad Cox and Flavien Prat to contend with. Prat has not been on board this horse. I'm not sure if he's ever been on board this horse. If he has, it's been a while. But the sheet numbers, I look here, and I only see an 8, one single digit in quite a while.
Yeah, but this horse was claimed out of his last race by Brad Cox.
Okay.
He does not claim many horses. They paid $62.5 for him. They put up the money. And now it's first time Brad Cox. Take nothing away from the trainer that had him before. He's a really good young trainer. His brother took over the barn because he's taken some time off. Listen, there's no edge in playing this horse at 4-1. The only reason I would even consider him is because it's first time Brad Cox and first time Prat. So there's a good chance that the horse will move up. I don't know if he's going back to the 8s he has, but he certainly should be used. You don't claim a horse and put him in a stake like this unless you had this race in mind. And obviously they had this race in mind.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the odds as well. So
yeah.
I mean, look, even though this horse has been a heavy favorite in a number of races, but still, like you said, there's just no value. That's the problem.
And he was a heavy favorite in claiming races, in optional claiming races. This is a stake race. These horses are much better than the horses he's faced before.
Yeah, look at that. He hasn't run in a race like this. Well, you got to go back at least early this year. No, last year. Late last year.
Yeah. And in Oaklawn and everywhere else.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, and he's on the outside. Okay, so let's go with those first two horses. Vison, the 1 is an 8-1 shot, and the 2, Gordian Knot, is a 6-1 shot. Now, Vison is coming up back-to-back 8s, so that's nice. One of those was a wire-to-wire win, basically, at Parks. This is a Parks horse. And he also has a couple of Parks guys on board and training them. Solid, good meet numbers there by both those trainers and jockey. But the 2, I kind of like a little bit better myself because same thing. You got the Parks guys that are a little bit better actually. We just talked about Sanchez and on the other race, and I like the fact that this horse seems to be getting better each race. If you throw out the turf race, and even if you want to include the turf race. It's 16, 15, 12, 10, and 8. This horse just keeps to be getting incrementally better, and he's got 5 wins at Parks. He's 50% win total, 3 wins at this distance out of 4, and 6-1 is not a bad number.
No, and the trainer is Superman. He wins a lot of races. He's hitting at 30%. Jamie Ness is the best trainer in Parks. As far as Vison's concerned, where did those 2 8s come from? They really came out of nowhere. At least the horse you were talking about last year as a 3-year-old had 12s. As a 2-year-old, he had 14s, and this year he has an 8 and 10. So he's getting better. He's allowed to get better, and between the 1 and 2, I definitely like the 2 much better.
Yeah, and by the way, these 2 just raced, and Gordon Knot, the 2, beat him.
Yes, he did.
All right, let's go with the 3, a 5-1 shot, Twisted Ride. And you've got, again, a couple of good trainers and jockeys here at Parks, so keep that in mind. Now, this was run a 6 at Parks in July, but since the 6, he's gone the opposite way. 9 in the race after that, 13 in the race after that. Those are both grade 1 races. Keep that in mind, but still, the sheets, they don't really care about that. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that definitely you have to be concerned with is since the 6, he's going the opposite direction.
Well, but he does have excuses. First of all, last year he had an 8 and a 7, and 2 years ago he had an 8 and a 7. So these numbers aren't that far-fetched. Now, the 6 he ran 3 starts back is a terrific race. The 9 was the bounce off the 6. You knew he was going to bounce off the 6. He wasn't going to repeat 6s. So that 9 you could certainly excuse. And I could excuse the 13 that he ran last time out at Saratoga. He was against the track that day. And I would give him another chance. Listen, he never runs really worse than the 13. I guess this year he had a 15 first out. But if you look throughout his career, out of the 27 starts he has, most of those races are good, especially over the last 2 years. I would expect him to run a 10 or better. If you think a 10 or better gets it done, well, then you should be using him.
Yeah, he's got 50% wins at Parks, 9 out of 18, which is very impressive. So this horse is usually a in-the-money machine. Okay, the 4 is too slow.
Doesn't belong here.
The 5 is a 6-1 shot Recruiter coming off back-to-back 8s. This year actually has been solid, 11, 8, and 8. Took time off from November to June, so that time off seems to have worked out. And we're talking about a 4-year-old as well. So what about the 5 at 6-1?
Well, this is my top selection in the race. First of all, I like the trainer. Second of all, I like the horse this year. They gelded him after that layoff. He came out this year as a new gelding, and he's a different horse, 11-8-8. You know, he could make a forward move or repeat the 8 easily. He's lightly raced. I think you may see a new top, and if you get anywhere near 6-1, to me, this is the right horse to be playing here.
Yeah, and that's, of course, key, because if you're taking a look at the sheets, that's exactly what the sheets tell you. So that's why you want to purchase the sheets. It'll let you know right there, gelded, and then after that, 11, 8, and 8. Okay, like it. Next up, let's go to the 7, Speedy Bolt, who also looks to be a little slow.
Yeah, Speedy. Well, you jumped over Super Chubb, but I guess we discussed him early. Speedy Bolt, you cover that 111, and even if he ran the 11, it's not going to be good enough. He's a 7-year-old. I think the 11 hurt him.
And the 8's also slow.
Yeah, the 8. I don't know what these horses are doing in this race, but they're here.
And the last 2 horses are the 9, My Buddy, a 6-1 shot, coming off an 8 at this distance, at this track. Also has a couple of 9s this year. Ran a 7 and a couple of 9s late last year. The horse is 6-1, coming off a win. So, yeah, what do you think about the 9, My Buddy?
He's fine. I mean, I would want longer than 6-1, but he's fine. I mean, look, the 14 he ran 2 starts back was off the 8. Then he ran an 8, off the 9, I should say. Then he came right back to the 8. He's got a shot to pair up 8s. And
then the 10 is 90% Matty.
Correct.
Lezcano on board, and he's been hot since he's been here. Now, this horse ran a 6 in the Grade 2 race in July, bounced to a 13. But if you look at it, that's pretty much where the horse has been. He's been kind of like 10s, 11s, 13s over his career. Not sure where the 6 came from. The horse is 6-1.
He didn't even win with the 6. That's the bad news. You run a race like that, you're supposed to get the money. He didn't. Listen, he had plenty of time off the 6. He still bounced at the 13. He has a shot to make a forward move again. He would be somewhat on the bubble whether I would use him or not.
All righty, so it's time to make picks.
Here we go. I like the 5 Recruiter. Exact is with the 2 Gordian Knight, the 3 Twisted Ride, and the 11 Top Gunner. 5 with 2, 3, 11. Come back, reverse them as well. Greg?
I will do the 2 Gordian Knot over the 5 and the 9. So that's the way I'm going to go. 2 over 5.
All right, Greg.
9.
I will talk to you next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you, everybody, for tuning in and for belonging to Patreon. And we'll see you next week. Stay safe and be well, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. And I'm just going to stay here just to let everybody know what we're going to be talking about next week. So just taking a look at the card. Let's see. That would be looking at the 28th for next week. We have a nice card at Aqueduct. So we've got the Grade 1 Joe Hirsch Turf Classic. We also have 2 Grade 2s and a Grade 3. So we've got 4 graded stakes race at Aqueduct next week. And then we also have out west, as John alluded to, Santa Anita. We've got the California Crown as a Grade 1 race. We've got 3 Grade 2 races from Santa Anita. So we've got tons of graded stakes races to choose from on our show next week. So thanks for tuning in here to our Patreon. And once again, just want to thank Chad for all the time that he was able to patiently give us here on the program. Very busy schedule. The guy never sleeps. So I think he needs to use this time to maybe get some Z's. I'm sure he's going to benefit from that. But we hope to have him back. Maybe we can convince him to come back for the big ones. The Breeders' Cup is coming up. I'll do my best to convince him to see if he can make a special appearance. And let us know what you think about Chad not being around. That would also be pretty cool if you can send your messages regarding Chad not being here and taking time off, if not permanently. I mean, we don't know. I have no idea what's going on as far as a week down the road or 6 months or so far down the road. But again, we wish him the best of luck. We'll be following his races and we'll be keeping you up to date on how his horses do on this show for sure. So we'll see you again next week right here on Horsepower PSN.